There we go. Welcome everybody, and tell us where you're coming from. Um, who's damp and cold? I am too, Paula. I'm damp and cold. Um, so I'll share my screen. Let's see.
Mhm.
Here we go. Welcome. It's Friday Night Comics, everybody. And where I am, it's Friday night. Where you are, it might be a little earlier. Might be Friday, late afternoon. It might be Saturday morning where you are. It could be any. Who knows? Who knows? But that's what we call it, Friday Night Comics, the We Believe in Comics workshops at the Sequential Artists Workshop. We're a school and a nonprofit with some online courses that you can access at learn.sawcomics.org. For instance, Drawing for Drama with Sydney Davidson starts in a couple of weeks, February 19th, and I'll tell you about a couple more. Next week in this slot, we have Nicole George's. Um, and this week we have Nicky Rodriguez. This is our cacao workshop. Nicky is a graduate of CCA from 2019, and we're really honored to partner with California College of the Arts and showcase some of their superstar grads. So thanks, Nicky, for being here.
Mhm.
Um, some other things we have coming up. We have a graphic medicine talk and reading and dialogue that's happening February 19th. Comics layouts for the Romina Yi is starting. That's a 4 week, no, 4. Oh, I think it's a 5 week course actually. So I think we need to change that, but it starts February 13th. And Drawing for Drama starts February 19th. And thank you for your donations. If you donated today, it helps pay for these workshops. It helps keep them free, and it helps us pay the artists and the instructors. If you donated last year, check your email. You should be getting a tax receipt from us in the next day or two. And if you don't, let us know. Thank you so much for keeping us alive. So let's get into it. We'll do some sharing at the end. Please no inappropriate speech or imagery. Please keep it PG-13. Share on social media. You can do hashtag Friday Night Comics and tag us at Comics Workshop. You can tag Nikkei at the Art of Nikkei Rodriguez, but I'll put that in the chat. And we are also at members.sawcomics.org. Also, we make PDFs every week of any art you upload from these workshops. So check them out. Look for the link in the chat, but check them out at seesawcomics.org. We just make square PDFs and they're super fun and you can download them anyway. So enjoy. Today we have Framing Disability, Reclaiming Agency with Nikkei. Thank you for being here from Colorado. I'm in rainy, cold Rhode Island. See if I can figure out how to stop share. Here we go. And
Okay.
I'm going to spotlight you. You're going to get big on everybody's screen.
Okay.
There we go. And I'm
Make
here to
sure.
help you with anything you need. I'll be summarizing things you say in the chat for people that need that. And otherwise, just reach out.
Okay. Um, is it showing you guys the
Yeah.
little slideshow? Okay, perfect. It's like looks so different on my computer. It's always hard to tell between the two
Oh,
screens. But hi, I'm Nikki. I am a California College of the Arts graduate from the CCA in the Bay Area, formerly Oakland, now San Francisco. Rest in peace. Um, and yeah, like I'm really excited to do this workshop. It's actually my first workshop in a while since I've like been kind of adjusting to actually life being like a disabled artist. Because kind of like let me move through this real quick. This was like a recent change in my life, like at the start of the pandemic, like completely unrelated to COVID. But um, because of that, it kind of really made me not only like more cognizant than I already was about like disability advocacy, but also just in terms of how I could use something like zines and comics and just like visual narrative to go ahead and like explore this new aspect of my identity because so many of my zines up until now have been really focused on exploring like mental health issues, and also just aspects of like my cultural identity as a Puerto Rican and like queerness. So yeah, like I am really excited to go ahead and like put together this like presentation and workshop for everybody, because I think there just like aren't enough like spaces where like disabled people can really take agency and like tell their stories through their own voices. I find a lot of the times like, we kind of get stuck in a certain wheelhouse of just like being inspirational, but really not being able to tell our own stories. And I'm hoping that this space will be able to provide that for everybody.
Cool.
There we go. Um, so like this, I'm just gonna go through like a couple of examples of the zines I've made specifically geared towards like talking about my identity as a disabled artist. This was actually, I think, my first zine I made back in 2020 that was like, I think I was still trying to figure out like my diagnoses. I've got like two different headache conditions and arthritis in my neck, so it's just like a huge pain game like all the time. And as I was trying to like navigate that, I found zines being like the best outlet for that and really kind of exploring through more fictionalized experimental sense kind of like what it feels like to have chronic pain, and especially chronic pain that's like pretty untreatable in a way, because it took like a lot of different things to try before I kind of like found something that worked even a little bit. But yeah, this comic was my first foray into that, just kind of thinking about how to reimagine chronic headaches and like chronic migraine as, you know, just like being in a technical, futuristic technological space and like being able to have that like ability to actually remove your head in the sense of being able to like provide yourself that physical piece, and even in being able to do that realizing, oh, this actually isn't solving the problem necessarily. But yeah, that zine is called Pulse. This second one, I think I made a couple years after the fact, is called Migraine, What Is It? And it was kind of like an interactive zine. I did a Q&A on Instagram, just letting people know, like, what do you know about migraine? Like, what don't you know? Like, what do you want to know? Just kind of like, as I got more into different Instagram communities specifically that were like about disability advocacy and awareness, like a lot of them I followed were like specifically about migraine and chronic migraine. And it made me realize like, oh, there's like a lot that people kind of like misunderstand about migraine, especially the idea that like, oh, it's simply a headache and not this whole like neurobiological thing that's going on with your body. So working through this zine and like the little questions that people shot to me on Instagram was just like a really nice way for me to like engage with all the people I knew, um, and just kind of see like, hey, you know, like we can be in conversation in this way, even if, you know, we're not having like physical in-person conversation or like doing a physical workshop necessarily like I used to. So it was like a really nice way to kind of like tackle that. Um, and a lot of the questions I think were mainly just about like, how long have I had migraine? Like, when did they start? And kind of like, what does migraine look like and entail, especially since it is something that's so different for everybody. Um, and yeah, these are just like visual descriptors of like what it feels like. I actually started getting headaches and chronic migraine after I hurt my back. Um, and it kind of like really taught me how interconnected all the parts of our body are if you like don't really think about it in the day to day. And also just like a visual representation of like the arcing pain in my head whenever I'm like in the middle of like a severe attack and whatnot, because it's like, I'm sure anyone who has any kind of chronic pain or chronic illness knows that like when you go to a doctor, you'll have the like pain scale like 1 to 10, and sometimes that's like so incredibly insufficient. So it's just like the easiest way I found is to like to describe it to my doctors is like some really out there like metaphors and analogies and stuff, and like this illustration in the middle is pretty much like a visual representation of what I always tell my doctors, because it's just, like it gets it across the clearest. And this next zine is in a similar vein. It's occipital neuralgia. What is it? It's a part of a series that I'm hoping to continue. That was another Q&A zine on Instagram where people just ask questions about what occipital neuralgia is if they've never heard of it, like what does that mean, and like is it a migraine thing or a whole separate thing, like what's that all about. And yeah, I found I really liked doing zines in this way, just kind of like having an open dialogue with people like asynchronously. Um, because it also really filled the gap of the panels and workshops that I used to do pretty frequently whenever I was like traveling to Zine Fest during the pandemic. So it was like a really nice way for me to bridge the gap between having to deal with the pandemic, but also just like the sometimes day-to-day experience as a disabled artist of not being able to be in certain spaces because like there aren't accommodations available and things like that. So it was just like, oh, like I want to make this as accessible as possible to have this conversation, also kind of like make it a little bit of a collaborative project. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my little spiel about me and the work that I do. Um, can I, what's next? Am I taking questions or can I go into
Yeah,
our little warm up?
yeah, let's go into our workshop. Although I do have one question, but it's really ancillary. I just didn't know, is a migraine always on the occipital nerve? I didn't know that.
Not always. Like commonly, I think it's like it tends to be along the trigeminal nerve, so it's like usually like your face and back. It's just for me, I think because I
Uh-huh.
also have occipital neuralgia, like a lot of the pain just always starts there and moves out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're ready for a warm up. Thanks for answering that. And we have a lot of
Yeah, of
smart people in
course.
the chat, so I'm sure we're going to get some other things. Cool.
Okay, let me move this out of the way real quick. My screens are starting to stack on top of each other.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was thinking just for um, first, oh, it looks like my things might be out of order. Sorry about that. Um, in terms of like what this whole workshop is going to be about, I kind of was thinking we could all make like a short 4-panel comic, um, just thinking about a particular aspect of like your experience as a disabled person or your like your identity, um, and some very general ideas I gave, like what is something important you think people should know, kind of like how I approached two of those example zines that I made, something you might have learned, like accessibility tips and mindfulness tips. That's something that like I found zines that have had like really helpful like ergonomic tips that I like would have never really known to like Google had I not like found that zine, which was really great. Um, or just like any kind of like cool resource or community that you've um, discovered in your like disability experience. And because with that, I was thinking, just go ahead and think of an aspect from that brainstorm, like try to come up with maybe 2 to 3 rough ideas, and then sketch it out. And that you don't have to sketch out like the full like rough draft of your 4-panel comic. It's more just like if you want to say, um, like do a short comic of you getting x-rays or something and how it's always an interesting experience for you, like your sketch could just be you going through the process of like getting that x-ray and thinking about, like what do I want this to look like? Do I want there to be dialogue? Just kind of like think of it in terms of like one little rough sketch to kind of gather your idea into one illustration. And I'll actually switch my screen so I could do the same with you guys in just a second. I
Great.
do.
So how long do you want to give us for this? I think you said 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, good. It is sharing the right screen. Let's see.
Yeah. Love to watch people draw. Um, are you keeping track of time, or do you want me to?
Um, yeah, actually, because it's hiding my clock. I
Okay.
turned it on, but it's hiding it, so I can't even see it.
I'll say we have 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
And we have two questions, which I seem like they're easy to answer. One is, um, can somebody do something about somebody they care for um,
Oh, yeah.
that is suffering? Yeah. And another person says if they haven't been diagnosed with anything, should they just run with something that they feel people get wrong about them anyway, or something like that?
Yeah, because I think it's still you're speaking to your experience. And I mean, I also know it's like so hard to get a diagnosis for like anything, at least especially in the American medical system. So that's totally fine. As long as you're speaking to your experience or like, like if you're a caretaker for someone or like uh, uh, really close friends with someone who's like experienced something that you've like been in community with, like that's also fine.
Hmm. And we've got 1 more minute.
Okay.
Mm. Should I be seeing double? Cool. I mean, not cool, but I mean, it's a great drawing, though. All right. You want to call it time? Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
So I guess while everyone is like finalizing their sketches and whatnot, I'll just go ahead and share what I drew. So I was thinking about maybe making a short little comic about discovering that vestibular therapy is a thing and like what that's all about.
Hmm.
Because for several months I was dealing with chronic dizziness and didn't really know that because I learned that uh, there are multiple ways to feel dizzy. Like dizzy is a really general term for doctors, but it like encompasses a bunch of different like things and sensations. So I was experiencing like this specific sensation of kind of like feeling disconnected by my body, but also if I moved my head too fast enough, then I would get like feel really queasy. And when I told my neurologist, they let me know like, oh, that's like, dizziness, just go to like a vestibular therapist and we'll get you started. And I had to do like a lot of walking exercises where I moved my head around because I had to train my eyes to move with my head again. So that way I would
Mhm.
stop being dizzy with motion, which like I didn't know was a thing that could happen. It was like so
Wow.
bizarre learning and going through it, but it was like a lot of me just like walking around this room with a bunch of other people and like trying not to veer off a line, but also trying to like stay not sick as I did that.
Wow.
So yeah, this is just like a little representation of that.
Yeah, that seems like a great thing. I'm going to ask people in the chat what they are thinking about.
Hmm. Oh, I wonder if like my night shift is turned on my screen, so I wonder if you guys could see it with the screen sharing.
It hasn't,
Turns my
it
screen
didn't,
very orange. Oh,
no,
okay.
it didn't change. Getting a lot of people in the chat talking about what they're going to work on.
Oh, and also like I think I might have forgotten to mention it at the very start, but you could also be like as explicit or implicit as you want because I know like sometimes trying to like verbalize your disability or just even finding ways to kind of like visually represent the literal can be difficult. So it's okay if you want to like explore the emotional journey of what it's like, dealing with your disability, your disabled experience, or like chronically ill. That's also totally fine.
All right, what's next after our warm up?
So next is um, if anyone wanted to share what they've drawn, um, or just wants to like continue talking in their chat, you guys can go ahead and share. I guess I'll just stop sharing my screen. I think you guys might just need to, I guess, raise your hand or let me know in the chat so I could do that.
Do we want to share our final 4 panel comic? Because doing double shares in a single workshop might be a bit much. Sometimes it can go long
Oh,
if people.
okay. No, that's totally fine then. So let me, yeah, so we can go ahead and move on to our short 4 panel comic now. Um, Basically, just based on what you brainstorm, what you might have drawn, if you want that to be your final idea, just go ahead and, yeah, make your 4 panel comic. It doesn't have to be like, first I did this and then I did that. Like, you don't have to chronicle your whole journey and whatever you're telling necessarily. It could be like 4 different aspects of the topic you want to tackle, uh, separate panels of like your experience. Like, that's totally fine. But yeah, we could go ahead and do that. And I will need the timer set for that to be monitored.
Okay. How long do you want to go for that?
Um, I think I was thinking maybe like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's about right for the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. We usually we sort of average out often at about 4 minutes per panel, so 16 to 20 would be
yeah.
fine. Oh,
Perfect.
I'll put 4 minutes on the timer and we can, I think I can get the timer app to work. It used to work. Let's see. Okay.
Now let me just.
So everybody, I'm going to put a 4 minute timer on the screen and we'll just use that as a general to keep us panel by panel.
Okay.
Cool. And we love to see people draw. There's a lot of great things in the chat. I think we're going to see some really nice
Whoops.
comments.
I know. I like got a chance to sift through it before it like got overloaded. I'm really excited to see what people come up with.
Are
This
you
is also
working in, is that Clip Studio?
yeah.
Cool.
I do most of my work in Clip Studio now. There's just some newer work I'm doing in Photoshop, but that's mostly because I'm retouching old comics for to be rebundled into omnibuses, so it's just easier to do in Photoshop.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm going to add a minute to our timer. What a great image. All right, so there'll probably be a little sound in 12 seconds, everybody. That just is an encouragement to move on to the second panel, but don't get too shocked or um,
Oh, that's a fun sound. I was expecting just a ding.
yeah. That was called, believe it or not, that was called pencils down. I don't know why it's called that. All right, I'll put the next one at for 4 minutes 30 or so. We'll see how it goes. So we're gonna hear that sound again in about 18 seconds. Don't so watch out. Just telling people ahead of time. Oh my gosh, stop it. There we go. Okay. That doesn't sound, I'm gonna choose a different sound. Maybe it's too late, actually. All right, the timer, watch out. It's gonna go make that noise. Oh, much nicer. All right, and the next one is started. All right, that last timer will go off in 1 minute. And that is so much gentle. And Katie says, I miss the French movie soundtrack noise. I hadn't thought of that as a French movie sound. Interesting. Um, hmm.
I don't really have a little title for this, but I guess I keep switching brushes. Oops.
Hmm. Can you zoom in just a little bit more so we can see it?
Oh yeah, sorry. I keep
That'd be great.
forgetting what it actually looks like on the shared
Yeah,
screen.
right.
There we go.
So the motion of your eyes could get out of sync with your head. Wow. Huh. And so exercise, and so that would, are you,
I had to I had to like practice moving my head with my eyes at the same time because I didn't realize after a while um somehow that like reflex had gotten out of sync altogether. So apparently when I was like moving my head, my doctor said that my eyes were like sticking instead of just
mm,
like going in one smooth motion. I was like, oh
mm.
geez, I'm learning so many new things about like what your body can do while I'm at vestibular therapy. So yeah, it was a lot of the exercises, but also a lot of the kind of like triggers were just like circular motions with my eyes and head. So it was just really about making them move at the same time. And that was
Wow.
just the exercises. So a lot of like circular motions for like
Wow.
weeks.
And grounding your feet in moving cars?
Yeah, like I didn't realize, or I guess I just didn't know that apparently getting motion sick a lot when you're younger in cars is like could mean you're predisposed to like migraine in the future.
Hmm.
Um, and I never was really like all that motion sick after I stopped being a kid, but I started getting really motion sick again once those like reflexes got out of whack. And I
Wow.
was told, like if you, I guess it was kind of like a little bit of a mind over matter thing too. If you just like focus on the physical weight of your feet on a grounded plane, even if that's like the plane of a car that's moving, um, it helps at least diminish that kind of like woozy motion sickness feeling. And it did help. So that was like really nice because it was like really hard getting to appointments if I was like always feeling terrible than the ride there. I was like, well, this kind of defeats the purpose of everything that I
Wow.
need to
Wow.
do.
Well, I bet some people would love to share, and probably there's probably a couple people who are done quickly along with the timer, and then probably some more people would like to share, and they'll probably be working on it as we go. So, would you like to take a look at some?
Yeah.
All right.
Let
Oh
me
yeah, we're
see.
getting some hands up.
Yeah. Oh, I see Plenty of
And
hands.
meanwhile, in chat, I'm putting the info for sharing online. We'd love to see you share online and also be a part of the PDF we're going to put together for this. I'm sure we're going to get some great stories. So as soon as you, Nikkei, can hit that share thing. Oh, great.
There we go.
Okay. So we have David, Gabriel, Eli, and after that, we'll call on. So we'll start with David. I'll ask David to unmute and we'll spotlight you.
Hmm.
Oops, did it work?
Hi there. Can you hear me
Hello.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did 5 panels. I'm sorry I shouldn't have overrun, but I did
That's
it
fine.
just quickly. So I'm a college professor, but I'm in my 80s. But my family is telling me I'm losing it. You're
Mm.
senile, you're getting dementia, which is very bothersome. But I see my doctor. Oh, this is out of order. I want to see the other panel first. I'm not sure what to do. My doctor says I'm fine. I don't have dementia. So my fifth panel, ooh, that's right, are
There we go.
people talking to me. Talk, 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 talk. What do I do? Maybe I just think they're family members and they love me and just let them talk.
Huh.
That's it.
Oh, looks like there's another Nikki in here. Thank you for sharing.
David, that's great. Thank you. Where are you coming from?
Los Angeles, smoky LA.
Oh man. Okay. Stay safe from those fires. Thanks so much for that. We'll go to Gabriel next and then Eli. Gabriel's gonna come on screen.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, everybody. So I wrote about my own disability, which is ADHD. I know there are a lot of people who don't like that being called a disability, but once in a while, I prefer to call it that because while it can be helpful in some ways and harmful in others, it is. So anyway, so of course, the first thing I thought of, like, what does people who don't know much about ADHD think? So they say this is what ADHD looks like in most people's imaginations, and it's someone jumping around, bouncing off the walls, talking a lot, and getting excited. You see me going squirrel, you see something exciting, and then it's a thought balloon, and it goes over to the next panel where it says what it actually looks like, and it's just someone sitting with all these thoughts going through their heads and doing nothing and thinking, I should probably do something.
Mhm.
Third one is you never have enough dopamine. And so there I am at 10:30 in the morning going, I got a full night's sleep. How am I already tired again? What did I write? When you need it. And so here I am at 4 a.m. trying to sleep when I actually need to be tired, and I just can't. And you see over here on the phone, it says, 4 a.m. with 7 a.m. alarm.
Mm.
And that's my comic.
Thank you for sharing. That is also super relatable because I have ADHD too.
Yeah. Check out
Thanks
the
a lot.
chat. The chat is you're getting a lot of people relating in the chat too. We'll go to
Oh,
Eli
I'm
next.
sure.
Yeah,
For
thanks.
this crowd? Are you kidding?
All right, we'll go to Eli next.
Executive dysfunction? Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
All right, Eli. Thanks,
Hi.
Gabriel.
I probably also have ADHD, but I did something about my sister who she died in September. For her life, she had myotonic muscular dystrophy, which is this really crappy genetic disease that just kind of wrecks everything in your body. So sorry, I'm moving around making everybody seasick. So I spent some time with her, my sister, going to doctor's appointments and seeing, trying to get stuff for her so that she could have a life. So I this was writing down some of the things that I learned from watching sort of ignorant, thoughtless people interact with her. And one is like, don't assume that she can't answer her own questions herself. I was sitting in a doctor's office with trying to get her some Medicaid thing so she could have assisted living, and he just looked at me instead of her and asked, can she wipe herself after she defecates? And I was just like, well, why don't you ask her? Just ask her yourself. And also, how embarrassing to have to answer that in front of people. And that's a metric for whether you can have your own apartment or not. And then also, like, don't leave her behind when a group is getting ready to go. Give her some time to figure out what's happening and get her cane or walker. She eventually ended up with a wheelchair, but people will just like kind of take off and leave her just sitting there and just forget that she was a little slower than everyone else. And sometimes she would just give up and just stay in her chair while everyone else went out and did something fun, because she got tired of having to advocate for herself. So the next thing was like advocate for her to have access and inclusion. So people, my family would be, let's go to the art museum. And I would say, well, let's make sure that they have wheelchairs for her so she can, go along with us. And then my family's not really great with disability. And they would say, well, if she gets tired, she can just sit in the lobby while the rest of us look around. And I would be the jerk who said no, and find her a wheelchair or stay home with her. And then don't assume she could get better if she just tried harder. A lot of really toxic people would tell her if she just changed her diet or exercise a little more, maybe she could walk better. But she has a genetic muscular degenerative disease. So she would never say, I can't do that, you dickhead, but I accept that for her. She was too polite. And she would, when she got older, her words started slurring because her muscles she couldn't keep her mouth working right. So her words would slur and people started to not be able to understand her and they would just ignore her. They would just like talk over her or just pretend like she wasn't there. So, if you can't understand her, just ask her to repeat herself and she'll do that. And also she has feelings. She's a person. She knows when you're condescending to her. She's just a person. So, don't be a weird about it. She doesn't have to worry about any of those problems anymore. But I would like to advocate on behalf of people who still are alive and dealing with all this weird cultural stuff. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I really love that comic.
Wow, Eli, thanks so
Really
much.
good class. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And let's be sure to share these online too. We'll go to Larned next. There we go.
Well, I'm kind of fortunate. I really haven't had any major health problems. So actually the first thing that popped into my head was wheelchair hockey, which is, hockey is a violent sport anyway. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're in a wheelchair or not. It's violent. So we have here the guy zooms across the ice, whacks the other player in the head with the hockey stick. And of course, they call for the medic right away. Poor guy's got the hockey stick in his head there, and he's injured again, and they carry him off. Even though he was already in a wheelchair and already had been injured, he decided to play again and got injured again.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah, humorous intermission. Thanks, Larned.
All right.
We'll go to Jen next. Here we go.
Okay, so I decided to do things you probably didn't know about MS. So the first one is it's not fatal. It's a neurological condition that affects vision, cognitive, and motor skills, but it is not a death sentence. And then here's my little dancing person saying MS symptoms are intermittent. So sometimes you feel like your old self, and sometimes you feel like crap, even though you don't know why. And then this is my favorite one. Natural remedies help, but they are not a cure. How about bee pollen? That ought to fix it. This is a real friend, by the way. Ex-friend. And then I decided I might just like do the whole thing. But I stopped here at there are lots of treatments that didn't exist 30 years ago, and they're not so bad. That's as far as I got.
It's great.
But
Thank you for sharing.
what the little sidekick with the bee pollen is the best. How about bee pollen?
That's also like very relatable, the natural remedies shtick.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, Jen. All right, we'll go to Alan next.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, I usually do mine on my computer, which I did once
You can-
again. So can I?
You can share, Alan.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Share. Where's the share button? There it is. All right. Kind of did the coloring last minute since I had some time left over, so the coloring is very sloppy, but oh well. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know that I have like cancer disability, but as I said, I strongly suspect, even though I have not been diagnosed, that I have ADHD, so I figured I did about that. So yeah. So dang it, I have 1,000 things I want to do, and my brain just isn't letting me do any of them. Yeah, so I haven't been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. Talking on the phone with my mother, who says, yeah, even if you do, you can't use that as an excuse. You just have to use your willpower and focus your mind. Yeah, so my vision's a little blurry, but I'm not going to get contacts. I'm just going to use my willpower and focus my eyes. I did not actually say this part. So there's my comment, because yeah, apparently to her, it's all about just having willpower and getting over it, which I don't think it works that way. But anyway. So,
A common experience for folks with disabilities. Totally get it. Thank you for
Thanks, Alan.
sharing.
Thanks, Alan. We'll go to Alondra when Alondra comes on, and then
Yeah,
Jason.
let me share my screen real quick.
Okay, you can do that. Here.
All right, so mine's about my back pain and how I was talking to friends who do have chronic pain. So we're sitting at her living room when they say, you know how it is with chronic pain, everything hurts. To which I say, yeah, I'm suspecting I have chronic back pain. To which she replies, oh, Al, everyone has back pain. And I think about all the times my back has like hindered me. I can't get up. It hurts to walk. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Another like very relatable experience, especially when it comes to chronic pain, just like the minimizing of chronic pain and like the severity of it sometimes. It's like so just like unfortunate how often it comes up. So like thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was just disappointed that my friends who do have chronic pain, this could have been a moment for me to look for resources and instead spent another 2 years gaslighting myself, thinking, well, maybe it's just bad posture, when reality is no, I think there's something worse than that.
Thanks, Alondra. Okay, we'll go to Jason next. Here's
Can I share?
Yeah, there you go.
To share screen, start broadcast, stop showing everybody themselves, and go back to where I was at, which would be this one. Make it bigger. I don't know if you can see it very good. Well, we'll start on this side. By the way, I got hit by a drunk driver, and I've had a ruptured L3, L4 for a long time. I have lifelong experience with pain. It just seems like I'm a king of pain forever and ever. But so one day I was getting ready to pack and move out of this house since COVID destroyed me financially. And I was all of a sudden feeling shooting pains down both sides of my abdomen, basically shot straight down through my groin, and I couldn't move. I just laid down on the couch when I should be packing, and I thought maybe it'll subside and go away, but it didn't. And my cat curled up next to my feet, and that was like the most amazing feeling, besides all the pain I was going through that kept coming every 2 minutes. It's like approximately 2 minutes, just never stopped. And I stayed there for 24 hours. And my friend who was coming down to help me move saw me, and he insisted that I went to the ER. And he dragged me there. It took 6 hours to get me to the ER because every little movement hurt so bad. So I got to the ER, and they finally shot me up with morphine. I'm like, here, thank God for morphine. I never had morphine before. I'd never been a hospital person, really. And my friend's sitting there calling, saying your brother's in the ER. And I said, well, what's it? She said, well, we're going to keep you. We're going to make a plan. and we're going to stick with you the whole way. I said, was it a hernia or an ulcer? And I swear, she looked at me just like this and said, oh no, baby, it's cancer. And that hit me pretty hard. So now my daily life is, for a year and a half now, I have to wear a colostomy bag. They did a major surgery on me, so I don't use the restroom like everybody else. Every 2 weeks, I get to put on a chemo ball pump that hangs on in a bag on my shoulder, which I have to make sure that the little hose that runs between my chest port that they've installed, it goes between my jugular and my heart, for instead of having to put IV needles in every time, and that run the chemo slow drip into my heart basically for 3 days straight. I just got it removed a couple hours ago, and for those 3 days, I have to make sure that the hose doesn't get snagged on cupboard handles, door handles, doesn't get tangled up with other stuff. When I go to sleep, I have to hang it on something so it's lower than my chest port and my heart, without it getting dropped too low where it'll yank out of my chest, which has happened before. Then I have to do a chemo, a cleanup, basically a containment. And there's a whole process to it. There's bags, and you have to do laundry separate, and you have to do all this cleanup. But people always ask me like, "What's that? What's that on your side?" So I have to have the colostomy bag. You wear a cover over it too, so no one has to be freaked out about what's inside it. And it doesn't really give you a warning of when it's gonna, like when you have to go to the bathroom, you usually get a warning, but not this thing. It just whenever it feels like it. So I pointed that out about this separate piece. I did also more panels than everybody else, I think. So here's why is it doing that? Weird. So there's, I have to wear suspenders under my shirt because I can't wear a belt because of the bag. And that, I have to remember to put those on before my shirt every time I do it. And otherwise my pants will fall down because I have lots of stuff in my pockets. And then, well, I guess that's the end of it. The other thing I'll say about it is that it's such a nightmare to have all these things on and not get them tangled up with each other, because when the thing is hooked to my heart or to my chest port, that tube comes down kind of close to where the suspender comes down, also kind of close to where the bag is, and it's just freaking nightmare. But the one thing is that when I saw another oncologist for a second opinion, like a year later, he said he's amazed I even had cancer in me, that I wouldn't have lasted a month. And that was July 3rd, 2023. I would have been gone by August 3rd, 2023. I'm still here. So, I guess it's worth it. And hopefully I won't have to deal with all these hanging things again someday in the future.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing this. These are like very powerful panels.
It's one small piece of the pain I've been through, I swear. Did I stop sharing yet?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here, Jason, and sharing that. Really intense.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. We'll go to Meredith now. Oops. There we go.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I just need a minute. Okay. So yeah, I also, like Nikki, have some experience with vestibular things, therapy and dysfunction. So I thought a lot about, like, I was thinking about the question about what you wish people knew, or and the sort of small thing that came into my mind, there are a lot of things, but the small one that came into my mind first was that a friend said to me the first time I had an acute vestibular episode was, can't you just close your eyes? And it's such an interesting thing, like that it seems like when you say like the room is spinning, like that it's visual, which it is, but it's not only visual. So you close your eyes and it's still spinning. And so just in general, it to me was such an existentially weird experience, like just changing my relationship with the physical world forever, I think. And trying to figure out how to show it visually has been interesting for me all along. And I just did a couple of drawings to try to see if I could do that. I didn't put a comic together, but this is the first one, me in bed here. And then just like the shapes in the ceiling, trying to like get them they were just moving, they just move. And the feeling of that is so strange. And then I tried another one with like one, depth perspective, just changing, turning on itself, but overlapping. So I just wanted to share those couple. I heard a great podcast where the doctor talked about the vestibular system being the actual sixth sense that, you know, something that we haven't even begun to be able to talk about how to describe, or which is one of the reasons that it's difficult to treat dysfunction in it. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you for sharing. I really love those drawings. Like it is interesting trying to figure out how to like visually represent like that motion that is just like technically like inside your head, just like that relationship with like the space in your mind and everything. And I really like your approach to it. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. Thanks for the workshop. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Meredith. We'll go to Jackie next.
You. This
There we
this has been amazing. I also want to say that like I could write a whole graphic novel on like ignorant crap that people say about my daughter. So thanks to everybody who put that in their work. This is a bit wordy, but hi, I'm Jackie, and this is my 20-year-old daughter Ellie. Hi. Now you may have noticed that Ellie isn't very chatty. She has autism. Not everyone with autism is quiet, but she is. Ha ha. What? Yeah, she's not obsessed with dinosaurs or YouTube, but if she can spin it on her fingers, she's on. If she can spin on her fingers, she's on it. And that's just like a wire coat hanger, plastic fence, and she's stimming on a magnet tile and singing to herself. I've had to learn to be very creative at a moment's notice, and that's us in a restaurant. It's happened one time. Hey, we're waiting for a pancake. She got a little impatient, so I like knocked over the caddy of jellies, and I had to sort them by color. Thank the gods I have my like-minded support group of moms to meet with. And this is somebody talking about how her son like dropped trow, and her son with autism dropped trow in gym class, and was like, you know, at that point not very PG to get into. And one of the like this happened literally the first moment that I walked into this group, and I'm like, I knew these people were for me. That maybe he can be nominated to the Supreme Court. So that's and I was like, yeah, I got a place there. So that's my experience. I mean, I don't know, my disabilities, I just have ADHD and chronic depression. Not very interesting, but very relevant to my parenting experience. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, all valid. Thank you so much for sharing.
Amazing, Jackie. Thanks so much. Great drawings too. We'll go to Katie. Katie's ready.
Hello.
Hi.
So I have ADHD, and I've been making a lot of comics about it, and doing a lot of research, and a lot of thinking. How strange, an ADHD person who is stuck in their head all the time. I'm sure that's novel. Well, let's see, here we go. Okay. So I decided to draw what's in my head and what people might see from the outside. So in the first panel, there's a bunch of little me's running around amidst flames saying, "Do the things! We can't, there's too many!" And someone in the background screaming as they're on fire. And in the next panel, I appear as if I am just staring off into the abyss, drooling, as someone is apparently waiting for me to say something in some kind of a meeting. The second example is the next bottom two panels. There's a butterfly flying out a window, and its wings say "important info," and there's a net that goes whiff just past it. Dang it. And then what they see is, "Were you listening? An attempt was made."
This is such great cartooning. Thank you for sharing this.
Thank you very much.
Really funny, Katie. Thank you. All of these are getting lots of love in the chat. So after sharing, definitely check the chat. We'll go to Nancy next. There we go.
Hi, my topic is about a broken elbow and my adventures in the orthopedics department. But it's against the backdrop of a more interesting chronic condition, because I've had Parkinson's for over 10 years now, and which is probably why I fell and broke my elbow. But anyway, so I wanted to say I just related so much to what everybody has been saying. And Jason, the thing about all the medical equipment, because I'm on a clinical trial, which is wonderful, but I have this pump attached to me that's sort of like I have to sleep in it, and it's just, and try to get through the TSA with the thing, and they don't know what it is. Anyway, that could be a whole thing in itself. But I'm going to show you the broken elbow one, and I did it old style like this. And so I'm going to try to read it by going on my phone. I took a picture of it, so this should be interesting, especially since I have Parkinson's. So let's see, I'm trying to figure out a way to read it. And while I'm getting on my phone to get the script out here, just the whole thing of when you have these trauma surgeons are sort of like rock stars. And so anyway, so I'll just read what I have here so you can sort of see it. The broken elbow, my adventures in the orthopedics department. The surgery itself was fairly straightforward. And he's going, "Okay, team, are we ready?" And all the nurses and so forth are saying, "Yeah, yeah." And I'm trying to participate too. So as I'm falling asleep, I go, "Yeah." And then which led to multiple visits. Oh, no, sorry, the next one. But a couple of days later, I fainted, fell down my stairs, and injured my shoulder blade of my good arm. Crash. So that's me. Luckily, I didn't break anything, but it was not a good thing, which led to multiple visits with super specialized physical therapists. And that's down here. And one of these goes, "Well, that thumb seems to be just fine." I know I can't read it, it's too small. Let's see. That thumb seems to be, that thumb seems to be working just fine now. So you'll have to find another specialist for this new problem. And I have no idea who that is. And cascading problems from this whole drama, which was about 1.5 years ago, are still plaguing me today. So here's shoulder damaged arm, has limited mobility, and did this weird, painful, spontaneous twitching. And she's going, "What the?" So anyway, I love this topic and hearing what just everything about the stupid things people say, and like there's a reason for everything and all that, the alternative therapies. So anyway, that's enough out of me, and I've really enjoyed what people have to say about their wonderful disabilities today.
Thank you so much for sharing.
There.
Thanks, Nancy. We'll go to Judith next. Here we go.
Hi, everybody. So here we go. Let's see if I can see this backwards. My sister was born with Down syndrome at a time when people like her were sent away. And she was in Willowbrook, which is a very, how to put it, it's a very well-known place of being a place of horror. We didn't know that it was like that for her, but I used to go visit her when I was a child. I'm doing a whole graphic memoir about this, so this is really just a little peek at the beginning and the end. You could see me visiting her, and I felt as if there was com a commercial for some kind of dental thing called an invisible shield in those days. And I realized that I always felt like there was an invisible shield between me and my sister because I didn't know what was wrong with her, you know,
Mm.
and she didn't speak. So if I visited her, I would be thinking, well, why is she here and why do I get to go home? And I felt both shame and guilt about that because I didn't do it. I couldn't do anything for her. And then she never came home and she never lived with us. And then I'm going to skip to the end of the story here. My parents and my brother all were cremated. There was no funeral. And even though I live in a completely different country than she did, I was able to get to be with her for her funeral. Now, that might sound, I don't know, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. And it was pretty amazing that I was able to do that. So when I do the whole, graphic memoir, there'll be more details about all the amazing stuff, but this is what we had time for. This is pretty intense evening, right?
Yeah, it
I
really
find
is.
it very interesting. Like we're all pretty cheerful. Did you notice that? Um, being able to do comics about stuff is like such a lifesaver in my mind, anyway. So
Yeah, it's
very
very
much.
cathartic and it helps a lot in ways you don't really think about at first until you like get there and you're like, wow, I feel so much better. And you really feel seen when you're like in community like this. So thank you
Right.
for sharing.
Well, if you've, whatever horrible thing happens, if I can think of some cartoon to make about it, somehow it turns out a little better. Anyway,
Mhm.
Thank
I want to wish everybody well.
Yeah, for sure.
Be
For sure.
well.
Thanks,
Thank
Judith.
you.
Okay. Is it Maria or
It's
Marja?
Maria. Yeah, good.
Maria. Okay.
Yeah, so this is my comic, and I do like resonate with other neurodivergent folks here. So funny thing, a few years ago I went to get tested for ADHD and they diagnosed me with NVLD, which stands for a nonverbal learning disorder, and it's a quirky little cousin of level 1 autism and ADHD. And this just made me realize that maybe making an educational comic about it could be interesting because a lot of people don't know about it. But essentially, MVLD is like a huge disparity between one's verbal skills and other aspects of intellect. So the way I try to explain this to people is, like if you think I'm good with words, it doesn't mean I'm good with all other things. But one of the things that comes with MVLD is a person is likely to understand things very, very directly. And the comic I made is like very lighthearted. Those of you, maybe some of you have seen the movie Airplane with an exclamation point. That's probably one of my favorite comedies because like the jokes there are very, very direct. So for someone with MVLD, it's super delightful. And like here, it's just like me experiencing watching the movie with my partner, where one of the jokes is, like, so a person is buying a ticket at the counter. It's an old movie, it's based in the 80s, and the dialogue goes, I'd like one ticket to Chicago. And the receptionist asks, smoking or non-smoking? And the person says, smoking, please. And, like they hand him like an actual smoking ticket. And basically, like my partner was like pretty, huh? And I was just losing it. And basically the whole movie is like that. And that's how we, like ended up watching it. Yeah, so this is just like one of the more light-hearted ways to describe this. But yeah, thank you, Nikki. This is super cool and fun and gives me lots of ideas.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you for sharing, Maria.
Thanks, Maria. We'll go to Sophia next. Here we go.
Hi, this is my second time participating, and my cat is sitting on my drawing. Okay, she's off. Hand drawn, so I hope that you can see it. The caption isn't all that important, but basically the view is of me in the foreground, listening to my ex talk about something, about work, and me listening. It says right here, listening intently. And I'm kind of listening to this like run on, what to me feels like a run on sentence. So I'm listening very patiently and from my perspective. And the second perspective, he's like, he's still going, and I'm still listening very intently. And I sense a pause. So I say, it sounds like you're really qualified from my perspective, kind of a positive, supportive comment. But then something that just happens so often with me as a neurodivergent person, it turns out that I interrupted. So this perspective I enjoyed, it's like, it was really zoomed out. We were just in the car, so now we're outside of the car looking down the street, and you can see Lake Michigan on the side and the pine trees on the other side. And the car is really, really tiny, but this speech bubble is really big. And he's talking, and it says, why do you do that? Why do you always interrupt me when I'm trying to talk? It's so disrespectful. And then my tiny little speech bubble is right next to it, and it just says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And then the final panel is very sad. It's just me looking out the window. I imagine like kind of rain coming down the window, but it's just like my tears and me facing the window, and it's me thinking, I guess, instead of talking. And it says, what's wrong with me? I thought he paused. I wasn't trying to interrupt. Couldn't he tell I'm not trying to be disrespectful? I hate how I am. So generally just kind of being really open and honest about the self-hatred narrative that I think a lot of neurodivergent and disabled people end up internalizing. And the way I've heard it, I've heard disability being talked about. Some of the features that so many people focus on are just like inconveniences to neurotypical people, not necessarily inconveniences to us. So in all these interactions, I'm always like, but I'm so engaged with the person. Like, I know I'm interrupting and that's a sign of disrespect, but like, I'm so excited because I'm engaged and I care. So yeah, thank you for looking. That's a zoom out, or like the whole thing. So yeah, thank you. And I use brush tip markers, so I really like using those.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. I really liked your transition between your panels. Very good.
Thanks, Sophia. Thanks so much. Okay, we'll go to Sarah next.
Wait, let me get up. Otherwise, I have difficulty holding it up to the camera and reading at the same time. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's the comic. So here's some guy holding a drink. Man, this new guy at my work is so annoying. He always looks grumpy, can't understand jokes, freaks out when he's interrupted, and is obsessed with the weirdest things. And I'm like, do you think he could be autistic? You know, like me, because this person knows. It's probably not nice to complain about him like that. But you're not like that. I'm like, unimpressed. Why do you think that? This is about masking. I don't know that this is the clearest thing I've ever drawn, but the reason they don't think that, right, is because I make my life convenient to them, that they don't have to think about the fact that I'm like that.
Right, right.
It's like a common experience a lot of people don't consider when that's not their lived experience. And it's like, I'm glad that like people are talking about it more, but at the same time, it's just like, I understand how it could be frustrating for somebody to be like, you know, I have to commodify my existence for another person, where it's just like, you know, it'd be great if we just all understood each other on a human level, you know? Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, we're gonna go to Benny next. Can you unmute? There we go.
Hello. Yeah, I've really appreciated this. I work in healthcare and also am kind of newly navigating being disabled, and yeah, just super helpful to be in this space. Let's see. I'm not I feel like the order of this wasn't, I want to change it, but I wrote adventures in autoimmunity. And so this is just like things people have said to me lately. Feel better. Are you feeling better yet? Hope the meds are working. Get well soon. Thinking of you. Really hoping you're feeling better. Did you figure out the health stuff? Hard to read backwards. I'm so grateful for all of the caring people in my life, but these intentions for care often feel isolating. I feel more held by the earth than by people these days. Being sick is teaching me a gentler way of being a friend and witness to myself.
That's a really touching comic. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks, y'all.
Really great, Benny. Thank you. We'll go to Elias, and I'll put it again in the chat. We'd love to see these again, so you can post them elsewhere. That'd be great.
See if I can put the light so this is actually visible. Bipolar 2 can mean being happy or productive is almost always a bad omen.
Wow.
I like the cartooning in that, especially that last panel. It's very simple and to the point, and I love that.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks, Elias. Thank you.
Thank you.
If AA is ready, we'll go to AA. We'll also go to Paula after that. Let's see.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You'll have to come on screen before we get. There we go.
Okay. Let me see. Let me flip my camera around. Okay. So, I wrote about just masking and chronic pain. I work in the DoDD field, actually in an art studio, and it is a special kind of experience being disabled, but kind of having to mask it to feel like I can be capable at my job. So I drew this first panel that's kind of like me being under this rock of the weight of hidden chronic pain. And I'm like, fuck my life. Why must I hide it? Trustability. And I have this other like frame panel that's being knocked over. And in it, it says, I just want to scream and I'm crying. And it says, fuck your judgment. And then this larger third frame panel says, fuck not being. And then this is supposed to be lately, because of my light sensitivity and migraines, I've had to wear like these pink glasses all the time that people make fun of me for and think that I'm just being silly. And on the side, it'll eventually read there, fuck not being in pain enough, fuck being too young, fuck being too black for that, fuck the assumption this is a choice. And then there's just tears everywhere, kind of flowing everywhere from this panel. Then down to this last like heart frame where it's these broken looking hands holding a heart that's the same pink as the glasses. And then my cane, my glasses are going to be pink, and then it has my heating blanket and my favorite stuffed animal that I sleep with to help me when I'm in pain. And then this was kind of like the previous sketch of where I came from. But yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. I like seeing the transformation from one version to another. Yeah, it's really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, AA. Okay, we'll go to Paula. We've got 3 or 4 more. Here we go. Paula?
Hey,
Oh, there you are.
this is me and my autism and stuff, and the way my head goes, and people trying to just sort of like be funny with me and stuff, and not very friendly and things. I just love the other one I did. My head just pounding all the time and stuff. Babies crying in their prams, trying to get rid of my autism, like sucking it up, getting rid of it, going on a ski slope. What else is that? Somebody trying to drive over my head. Yes. Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram, definitely. I put my thing in the chat. It's very moving today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. It was really great seeing your comic. I loved just the movement in those pages.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Mishka's here.
Can I share?
Need it. Yeah.
Thanks. Hi. So I got here a little late and I had a hard time thinking of a, an issue, something that affects me personally. But I started with your wish, I wish people knew. And so this is a little polemical, but it's kind of ability related because I have a fear that I haven't overcome in my couple of decades of being adult. Few decades. But how old am I? All right. So it didn't have to be like this. Endless miles of traffic, everyone in their own car, life-changing accidents. I spent a lot of time looking at accidents and traffic because I have a long commute. What if autonomous driving vehicles were invented first? We'd have so much more free time and the roads would be so much safer. All the robot cars would talk to each other and stay out of each other's way. I wouldn't be such a weirdo as a non-driver too. This is a little California centric. In that parallel universe, the idea of human-driven cars would seem totally bonkers. What if someone is high or drunk or texting or doesn't know they have a brain tumor impacting their occipital lobes so they don't see the car next to them? That part is a true story from my dad finding his brain tumor. He had an accident. So I often think about like there are people driving around who are impaired. We'd have lots more public transportation and be better for everyone, young, old, rich, poor, able-bodied, not, and maybe we'd be less individualistic and more empathetic when we're not stuck in our little motion capsules by ourselves all the time. Maybe. Let's ask the rest of the world about this.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I really liked
Thank you.
your interpretation of that point that I mentioned. Like it was really nice seeing all of that. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for this exercise.
Thanks for being here, Mishka. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
next time. Here's Edgar.
Well, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Nikki, for the inspiration tonight. Let me show you what I'm working on. Mine is called Me and My Shadows. When you love someone who abuses alcohol or prescription medicine, you want to help them. What can I do to help? I don't have a problem. Clearly, that person does, as their ability to function normally begins to decline. Alcoholics Anonymous may be one solution that can work. Some meetings are only for alcoholics, some are open for concerned loved ones. There's the sign AA meeting, all are welcome. And the individual says, hi, and they give their name and say, I'm an alcoholic. And the others there greet them, hi. And I say, I'm proud of you. They tell you to take it one day at a time. But what happens if you relapse? There are a number of respected hospitals and rehab facilities everywhere that can be very helpful. But the patient has to want to receive help. And being bipolar doesn't help. I've changed my mind, Edgar. I'm checking myself out. Why don't you complete the program? Your insurance company won't pay again. I told you I'm fine. You realize that in trying to help, you are destroying yourself. And there I am talking to me in the mirror. Listen, Edgar, you can't change them yourself. Only they can help themselves. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who am I going to call? In this case, medical professionals finally realized that involuntary commitment was necessary, and the loved one stayed for 3 months. The cycle was finally broken, and the individual turned their life around. I survived too. There were still many challenges ahead, but it is important to remember there is always hope. And I've signed that Edgar Farr Russell III, January 31st, 2025.
Thank you for sharing that, Edgar.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Edgar. Really great. Another deep story. Thank you.
Yeah, I got a million of them and some fun ones too.
All right,
Thank you.
we'll go to Jeb and we'll finish off with Jeb here.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So I also kind of recently have gained more and more and more different health issues and chronic issues and health conditions that I'm piecing together. And as I was sketching out, I was kind of thinking about the tools that I use. So this is my lunchbox that I always keep ice packs in and I bring with me. And this is me in my little like reading in bed with like a giant phone mount and heating pads and ice packs and a billion other little tools. And then I kind of listed out the different tools that I use, both socially and physically and medicinally. And then I created this little kind of superhero, the Bionic Gay, that says "Use your tools," and that's like a wrist brace that I use and little ice pack around the neck. And then this one, I say, my partner's grandma sometimes refuses to use her walker, and the walker is very far away and is begging, "Please use me." I always encourage her to use her tools. Reframing it this way often helps us when we feel embarrassed. And this is me kind of overloaded whenever I go anywhere. I'm carrying like a billion different things that I need to function throughout the day. When we feel embarrassed or like we're over exaggerating. But by seeing people show how they make their lives more accessible, thank you, TikTok, it helped me stop making my life harder for myself and learning how to shamelessly use my tools and how to find tools. So yeah, it kind of encompasses the socially learned acceptance and shamelessness that we kind of show each other. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you for sharing that. I also carry ice packs in my purse for whenever I get a migraine or my neck starts to hurt. It is very handy.
Yep.
Wow. Thank you, Jeb. All right. Nikki, I'm going to replace, you're going to get big again. There you are.
Okay.
Wow, thanks. Gosh, this was a little intense, huh? That's great.
It was like really beautiful. Like I'm glad that everyone felt, open and comfortable with sharing. Because I know it's also like it's hard sometimes coming to terms with like your conditions and your disabilities and like wanting to speak openly about them, especially when you kind of feel like in general the norm is like, oh, you don't talk about those things, or there's just like a lack of understanding, so you don't feel welcome to do that. So I'm glad that everyone felt comfortable in this space and like was able to relate to all the things we were sharing. So I'm like just really happy about that.
Yeah, you gave us a great gift in offering the space. We really appreciate it. There's so much going on, both on the screen and in the chat too. So much sharing in the chat. I'll post that stuff one last time. Oops, I put it in the wrong place, everybody. So if you want to upload it for the PDF, it's there, and we'd love to see it on social media, even though everybody's getting off social media. But we're really grateful for this great night. Nikkei, I'm going to ask everyone to unmute and just give you a round of applause. And thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
We see you
so
again.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll be here next week with Nicole Georges. Nikkei, thank you so much.
You all are so nice. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out here for this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Keep making art.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks
Have a good
again.
night, everyone.
Bye. Bye.